I was trained in Sarafand, which was south of Tel Aviv, and don't forget at that time I was already an officer in the Haganah, so I was fairly well trained, and I already knew how to command people. And I remember a Scottish sergeant trying to teach me how to shoot. Every shot he missed his target. Every shot, I hit. He said, well, I want to show you how not to shoot. But the caliber of the people who trained that was dismal. There was the regular army, there were the same kind of people who did the massacre in Beit Nabala and wherever else. Ignorant, not very capable. Till I met the first members of the territorial army, which were drafted Englishmen, which had to join the army or which voluntarily joined the army. I thought the British was a bunch of scum, not any better than the Germans, worse than the Germans in a way. But then later on I met real English people who were wonderful guys who were just like us. There was one big difference. Most of them were filthy. When we washed in the morning and, and took out things of the wash, they were grey, except where their shirts were a little sunburned and where they washed. They hardly ever took a bath. Unbelievable. Palestinians, we took a bath, shower every day. Even when we had very little water, somehow we managed to wash. Anyhow, life in Sarafand was miserable. And they made it miserable on purpose. So I volunteered for the front. So they sent me to Egypt. But instead of sending me to Egypt, to the front, they sent me to Port Said to be a driver, bringing whatever gasoline, food, from Port Said, from the harbor, to the warehouses. And it was miserable. That's why I didn't join the British Army to be a driver. So I volunteered again for the front, and I was sent to an 9th Australian Division as a driver. And that was, I joined them in El Alamein. And I was supposed to go to Tobruk, because Tobruk had still held. It was completely encircled, but they assigned me to a job supplying the division. There was a convoy from Alexandria to El Alamein every week. I mean, it took me one day to go to Alexandria, one day to go get loaded and go back at night. And we were almost continuously under German attack. So we drove at night, but somehow they must have spotted us most of the time. We were always under aerial attack. And during one of the days while I was unloading, I remember a whole line of Australians were running forward with fixed bayonets. I was standing on a wagon and trying to unload, remember, gasoline, when one of the officers shouted, "Hey, fella, why don't you join us?" I said, "What are you doing? We are attacking the German line." I said, I only have a rifle. I know, I only have I don't know what I had, a gun, a pistol or something. So somebody threw a rifle at me with a bayonet, and I joined them. And that was my first attack in the war. And I thought it was a lot of fun. But one thing amazed me. The sandflies around me was absolutely mind-boggling. They were jumping up all around me. I said, holy shit, so many sandflies. I had never seen that much. And suddenly I was in the German trenches. They all put their arms up. And I took them all prisoners. I mean, not only me, all of us.
What are sandflies?
Sandflies are little creatures that jump up. When I came back, and I had no fear, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was quite exciting, you know. It was the kind of thing a young man thinks, oh, that's great, that's a fun war. As we returned with the German prisoners, there were all those dead bodies lying all over the place. And it suddenly dawned on me, those were not sandflies. Those were machine gun bullets. They didn't hit me. So, this was the first and last time I had no fear. From then I became a professional coward. Throughout the war, and with each battle, I got more scared. When the Germans attacked, it was a 4-hour battle. And they finally had to withdraw. They couldn't get through.
How many were they against you?
The whole German army. I mean, I don't know how many divisions, but they had 2 tank corps. They were ultimately strong enough. Then we got orders to go to the middle. And the following day we were attacked in the middle. But again we were concentrated, and my one tank was always stuck in. We only could use the gun and the machine guns.
Yeah.
If they had known there was a tank, they would have annihilated us. But we were dug in, everybody helped us to dig in. It's pathetic, that one lousy tank. And the following, then again we drove them back. The following day, our intelligence found out they're going to break through at the sea. And this time, it was going to be an all-out attack on the German side, because they were running out of gasoline, and they had to get through in order to get to our gasoline reserves in Alexandria. I remember we had 3 lines of defense. I was in the last line of defense. They took cooks, people out of the hospitals, the clerks, sick people, anybody. And I remember the battle started at about 5 or 6 o'clock at night. We could see each other's line. I see actually Australians take mines in front of their body and throw themselves in front of tanks. I mean, it was the most frightening battle, but they never came to the 3rd line. I was that buried tank in the 3rd line. And we held. Stalingrad held, we held, and they had no gasoline. So the whole German attack came to a miserable end. If they had had gasoline, they would have knocked the shit out of us. But half of their tanks couldn't function anymore. They functioned in the south, they functioned in the middle, they were out of gasoline for most of them. They broke through the 1st line, and they started breaking through the 2nd line, but when they never reached where I was.
And you were in Alexandria?
No, I was in El Alamein.
But you had Alexandria behind
Alexandria was 60 miles behind us. Had they broken through our thin defense line, there was nothing more to stop the German army from taking over Egypt, wiping out Palestine. Turkey would have joined them.
Right.
They would have attacked the Russians from behind. I'm sure the Turkey would have joined them.
So they never made it, they never got into Egypt?
They never got into Egypt.
That's great.
I mean, that was a time when we and the Russians, that was the turning point of the war.